Welcome back to another premium episode of Lingo Pulse. I'm Mark, and today Sarah and I are going to tackle a secret frustration that millions of English learners carry inside them every single day. Let me paint a picture for you and see if this sounds familiar.
Go ahead, Mark. I think I know exactly what you're about to say.
Imagine you are completely alone in your room or standing in front of your bathroom mirror. You start talking to yourself in English. The words flow beautifully, your pronunciation feels smooth, your sentences are perfectly structured, and you think, wow, I'm actually doing it. My English is getting great. You feel like a superstar.
But then, reality hits.
Exactly. The very next day, you walk into an important job interview, or a native speaker stops you on the street to ask for directions, or your boss suddenly asks you a question in English during a meeting, and in that split second, everything changes. Your heart starts pounding fast, your throat feels completely tight, your hands get sweaty, and your mind goes completely blank. Every single English word you knew just evaporates into thin air. You freeze.
It is one of the most frustrating, exhausting, and heartbreaking experiences a learner can go through, Mark. And so many students come to me completely defeated, saying, Sarah, what is wrong with my brain? Why am I fluent with myself but completely silent in front of others?
And the immediate conclusion they draw is, I'm just bad at English. I need to study more grammar books. But Sarah, is that true? Is this actually an English language problem?
Absolutely not, Mark. And I want everyone listening to us right now to take a deep breath and hear me clearly. If you can speak English fluently when you are alone, you do not have an English problem. You have a psychological problem. Your language skills are already inside your head. The bridge between your brain and your tongue is perfectly intact when you are alone. But the moment another human being stands in front of you, a giant invisible glass wall drops down and blocks that bridge.
An invisible glass wall. That is a powerful way to put it. So what is this wall made of? What actually happens inside our brain in that exact moment of freezing?
It all comes down to how your brain handles perceived danger, Mark. When you are alone in your room, there is zero danger. There is no one to judge you, no one to correct your grammar, and no one to laugh at your accent. Your brain feels 100% safe, so your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for language and thinking, works at maximum efficiency.
But the moment another person enters the room,
The moment another person looks at you, your primitive brain perceives them as a threat. Your ego panics. Your brain says, oh no, if I make a mistake, I will look foolish, I will lose respect, people will laugh at me. This thought triggers a minor fight-or-flight response. Your body releases adrenaline, your heart rate goes up, and your emotional brain, the amygdala, completely hijacks your thinking brain. It literally locks the doors to your vocabulary storage room.
wow, Sarah. That explanation about the amygdala literally locking the doors to our vocabulary storage room is mind-blowing. It makes so much sense. When we are alone, the door is wide open. The moment someone looks at us, the brain panics and locks the door. But why does our brain look at another person as such a massive threat? Why are we so terrified of their judgment? It's because of a psychological phenomenon called the spotlight effect. When you stand in front of someone to speak English, your brain tricks you into believing that there is a giant burning spotlight shining directly on you. You feel like the other person is closely watching your every syllable, waiting for you to make a grammar mistake or counting how many times you stumble over a word. Oh, absolutely. You feel like you are on a stage being heavily graded by a strict examiner. Exactly, and this creates what I call the performance trap. You treat speaking English like a theatrical performance, where you must be flawless to get applause. If you miss one line, you feel like the entire show is ruined. But Mark, let me ask you this. When a native speaker talks to you in real life, are they actually grading your grammar? Not at all. In fact, most native speakers don't even know the formal rules of grammar themselves. When people talk to you, they aren't looking at your verbs or your tenses, they're looking at your meaning. They just want to know what you are trying to say. They're trying to connect with you. Precisely. This is the difference between a performance mindset and a communication mindset. A performance mindset says, I must sound perfect so they think I am smart. A communication mindset says, I have an idea in my head and I want to share it with the person in front of me. So when you switch to a communication mindset, the pressure completely disappears. You realize that language is just a tool to deliver information, not a test to prove your worth. Yes, think about it this way. Imagine you're starving and someone gives you a delicious, warm piece of bread on a plain paper plate. Do you care about the plate or do you care about the food? You only care about the food, of course. You're hungry. Exactly. In conversation, your grammar and accent are just the paper plate. Your message, the actual thought you are sharing, is the food. People are hungry for your thoughts, Mark. They don't care if the paper plate has a little wrinkle or a small tear. They just want the food. But when you freeze, it's because you're so worried about making the plate look perfect that you refuse to serve the food at all. That is an incredible analogy, Sarah. We keep our thoughts trapped inside our heads because we are ashamed of our imperfect plate. But by staying silent, we give them nothing at all. And that is the ultimate irony. By trying to avoid looking foolish, we completely break the connection, which is the exact opposite of what language is designed to do.
Welcome back to Lingo Pulse. If you're just tuning in, Sarah and I are dismantling the massive illusion of freezing when speaking English in front of others. Before the break, Sarah gave us that unforgettable analogy of the food and the paper plate. We focus so much on the imperfect plate of our grammar that we starve the conversation of our thoughts. So, Sarah, the big question now is, how do we break this cycle? If our brain automatically locks our vocabulary storage room the moment someone looks at us, how do we force that door to stay open? You have to deliberately train your brain to handle the social friction, Mark. We call this the safe shock technique. Think about it. Why are you fluent when you are alone? Because your environment is completely comfortable. But comfort never creates growth. If you only practice inside a 100% safe zone, the very first second you face a real human being, your system will experience a massive shock, and you will freeze. Right, it's like practicing swimming on your bedroom floor and then jumping straight into the deep ocean. It just doesn't work. Exactly. So we need to create safe shocks, small, controlled situations where your brain feels a little bit of pressure, but there is no real-world danger of failing an interview or losing a job. We need to slowly expand your comfort zone until speaking to others feels as normal as speaking to your mirror. Walk us through the first practical exercise for this, Sarah. How can a learner start doing this today? The first tool is what I call the voice note pressure. Most learners are terrified of real-time conversations because they feel they have to answer instantly. So let's introduce a middle ground. Join an online language learning community or find a practice partner, and instead of typing your messages, force yourself to send 30-second audio voice notes. Oh, that is brilliant. Why does that work so well psychologically? Because when you record a voice note, you know another real person is going to listen to your voice and judge your accent. Your brain feels that familiar little spark of anxiety, that threat we talked about. But here's the trick. You have time to think before you press record. You can record it, delete it if you completely mess up, and try again. You're exposing your brain to the fear of being heard, but with a safety net. It trains your brain to tolerate the presence of an audience without completely hijacking your nervous system. What's the next step after they master voice notes? The next step is the 1-minute stranger simulation. Go onto a free language exchange app or a public audio room where people are practicing English. Do not log in with the intention of having a long, deep, perfect 1-hour conversation. That feels too heavy. Instead, set a timer for exactly 1 minute. Step into an audio room, turn on your microphone, say, "Hi everyone, I'm just dropping in to practice for 1 minute. I hope you all have a great day," and then immediately log out. Just 1 minute and you run away? Yes, it sounds funny, but listen to the psychology behind it. You forced your mouth to speak in front of real strangers. You felt the rush of adrenaline, you pushed the words out anyway, and you left the room before your brain had the chance to panic and freeze. You gave your brain a small victory. You proved to your amygdala that you can speak in front of others and survive. That is pure gold, Sarah. You are slowly rewiring the survival mechanism of the brain. You're teaching it that another human being looking at you or listening to you isn't a tiger trying to eat you, it's just a conversation. Exactly, Mark. And as you repeat these tiny, safe shocks day after day, that giant burning spotlight we talked about earlier slowly begins to fade. You stop looking at the person in front of you as a strict judge, and you start seeing them as an equal partner in communication. This is how we physically smash that invisible glass wall. But there's still one final piece of the puzzle we need to address. What happens when you actually do make a mistake in public? How do you handle that exact moment of embarrassment without letting it shut you down for the rest of your life? When we come back for our final part, Sarah and I will give you the ultimate mental shield against public embarrassment. Don't go anywhere.